Andy Johnson. This is the third in a series of videos that looks at action research for teacher professional development. And we are going to get to the heart of things because action research is a powerful form of professional development for teachers. Teachers are able to develop new knowledge that's directly related to their classroom. They get to decide. It promotes reflective teaching and thinking. Reflective teachers are effective teachers and enable teachers to expand their teaching strategies, their pedagogical repertoire, and as I said many times before, it connects the research literature, research and research-based theory directly to the classroom, what that teacher is doing, classroom practice. It's an economical and effective form of professional development. By providing a platform for teachers to present their findings and engage in professional dialogue, this is even more effective because you get these research ideas out there and get teachers talking about what they're finding and teachers connecting to the literature and each other. Very effective and economical for professional development. Two important things. Again, one of the goals is to link research-based theory and practice to classroom practice. Research-based theory and research to classroom practice. So a literature review is an important part of action research when used for professional development. It enables a teacher to become an expert in the topic that they're looking at. So we must ground action research in a solid theoretical context. Now, action research for professional development should be shared with colleagues and parents and administrators or community members, any one of these. This serves to heighten the sense of professionalism at the same time and gets these ideas into other classrooms. Sharing can take a variety of forms here. So, how to expand pedagogical knowledge? Well, one use is for problem solving. And we used means end analysis. And here's a graphic organizer I use with students. They identify the current state, the desired state, and then they begin listing necessary things to do. A problem is a differential between the current and the desired state. So the first step is to identify a problem, then identify the desired state and begin to list the things necessary to move from current to desired. That is means end analysis. So when using problem solving means end analysis as action research, you'd start by identifying a problem related to learning or teacher effectiveness. Then identify the desired state. This is what I want. And here's where the literature review comes in. You conduct the literature looking for research-based strategies directly related to your identified problem. This enables you to connect the research, again, directly to your classroom. Identify the steps necessary or the conditions necessary to get from the current to the desired. Once you identify the steps, and these don't have to be in order here, but number 5, you construct this initial plan. This is where they're put in order. You have a plan, and then you implement your plan and evaluate it. Means end analysis use for problem solving. Here's a research proposal, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But the teacher fills this out, gets approval from administration. Very basic, we have to provide the structure for teachers to do this initially. Analytical evaluation used to identify, implement, and evaluate new pedagogical strategies. Could be any one of these or these types of general pedagogical strategies. How do you do it? First, if you want to try out one of these new strategies, For instance, if you wanted to do project-based learning, you'd conduct a review of the literature related to that new strategy. Get some information about how to do it, its purpose. How many articles does it take? Well, we'll talk about that later, but absolutely 2 or more, because you want many perspectives when you do your literature review. Then you design a question to help guide your action research project. It should be something like, is this strategy effective? Can it be effectively implemented in my classroom? Or what are the effects of project-based learning? How is the strategy best used? That question helps guide your research, helps you decide what data are collected and how. You make your initial plan for how you will implement it. Now, I like doing this with a group of teachers, a small group. Here's my plan. What do you think? How do you do project-based learning? And then complete a proposal form. Here's a nice proposal form. Researcher strategy. Describe the new strategy you want to use. Important things you learned from your literature review. Your question, initial plan, and then a check-in date. Now, for these initial ones where you're analyzing and evaluating a new strategy, I like to keep them short for 2 weeks to get a sense of getting. Now, remember, our purpose is to get a new pedagogical strategy into a classroom. This is why it's a little bit shorter. So then you report back to your teacher or your group to share how it went and get ideas for how you might do it better. Then this can become the basis of a more formalized research project. Here you'd go about deciding what data collect, methodology, and again, linking it to the research literature. But we started with a short one just to get this strategy going. And many action research projects, it's okay, are just these short little ones. For a more formalized action research project, of course, you would start with a review of the literature, and I recommend an annotated bibliography versus a formal literature review. Here you simply you provide a list of the resources used and an annotated bibliography, an annotated description of each, a short description of each. I prefer the annotated bibliography because teachers' lives are complicated. We don't want to add complication always at asking them to write the formal literature review. Identify a question or topic, and then decide the methodology. What data are you going to collect? When, where, how much? And this should be, again, directly related to the question. That's why this question is so important. At the end, you'll describe the results and then conclusions and data discussion based on that result. That is your more formalized action research project. This is how you write up the report, review of the literature, okay? You might also, we had general pedagogical strategies. These are pedagogical content strategies related to specific topics. These are all questions you might ask related to a specific content area. Your action research could be related to student learning. Are students learning? How are they learning? How effective am I? These are the kinds of questions you can ask. What seems to be effective? Where do I need more work? What's effective here? What's impeding learning? Now, resist the urge to measure students' learning only in terms of test scores or quantitative data. All right, this provides a very narrow window of how students are learning. Instead, think about examining students' products or performances instead. These can all be assessed using the following types of measures, and we talked about these data collection types of data collection earlier. These are forms of more authentic assessment, by the way. more authentic forms of assessment. This is just an example where you might be examining students' writing to get a sense of how that writing is changing over time. You can also use action research to assess teaching performance, your own teaching performance. And again, it's important to ask a specific question. First, these are the types of questions you might think about asking. Am I being effective in teaching a skill? Why am I effective? What kinds of things appear to be effective? What's occurring here? How's my pacing? Do I ask effective questions? Can I improve classroom discussion? These are all the types of questions you might ask to begin to look at and evaluate your own teaching performance. Data collection options here. Again, to collect data on your own teaching performance, you can write your thoughts and impressions on the back of the lesson immediately after the teaching episode or at the end of the day. Here's my lesson plan, and I'm writing down my evaluation. This is what happened, and this is what didn't happen. We've said this before, you could video or audio record the learning episode and analyze it a little bit later, and I'll give you some tips for doing that. Or have a colleague conduct a peer observation or a series of observations. Now, it's important that when you're doing this analysis of a lesson, it shouldn't be a single episode. It should be several episodes according over time to get a better look at something. Several episodes observed or recorded over time. Now, this is a lesson analysis chart. You could use something like this for either your recorded lesson or peer observations. Here you have some characteristics or elements that you're looking for here, and just an open-ended spot for you to write your general observations. And don't overthink this. Again, just like anecdotal and just like other, you just write what you see. Just write what you see and begin to see. And you will notice that patterns begin to emerge here. You can use this with your own analysis of your lessons, recorded lessons, or have a peer observe you here. And again, your own teaching performance should be done over time. Review several charts. Use inductive analysis. Look for themes or patterns to describe your results. And again, these can also be used to guide your review of the literature. Remember, sometimes the review of the literature is done after connecting the literature to what you are seeing. And in the next video, we'll look at proposals, products, and presentations.